Well, good morning, or wherever you may be at this time. I hope you are doing well. My name is John Watts. I'm a consumer protection lawyer. And I know this is a little bit of an unusual day to do a YouTube Live, but I thought since I happen to have a little bit of time, maybe you happen to have some time. And if not, you can catch the recording. And so as people start to join in, feel free to put comments, put your questions. Primarily, what we cover in these consumer power shows is the idea of what about debt collectors? What about credit reports, credit bureaus, credit card companies, mortgage companies, those types of things. But really, any consumer issue you're welcome to put. And while we wait for those to come in, I wanted to share a thought with you. And I want to use an example that happened sometime back. And you may remember this. There was a big bank that failed in Silicon Valley. And, for all of us, we have deposits in the bank and they're insured up to a certain amount. And for the vast majority of us, we're never going to get above that amount. But if you get above that amount, it technically is not insured. And so you had all these really wealthy tech companies that had millions and millions of dollars in Silicon Valley Bank, and they weren't protected. And then the bank fails because they were super risky and they lost that bet. And so what the government said is, tech companies, you put all this money in, we're going to protect you anyway. Okay, we'll make sure that money's protected. Now, if you or I do something risky and that fails, we're not necessarily going to be protected. And we saw this back in the great financial crisis where these banks were making these super risky investments. And when they won, they took all the profits. Fabulous capitalism. But when those things failed, they went to the government and said, you got to protect us. So sometimes this is described as capitalism on the way up, socialism on the way down. And we see this idea with debt collectors. So a debt collector will say, I know here's the line in the law. We can't go past it, but we're going to go right up to the edge of that line. And we're going to profit from that. But then when they go beyond that line, they go, whoa, wait, you got to protect us, courts. Surely you can't really penalize us for this. I mean, we just barely went over the line. And so here's an example. In the absence of you telling the collector or the collector knowing something different, they're not supposed to call you before 8 a.m. Okay. So what if they call you at 8 a.m.? That's fine. There's no problem with that. They can call you at 8 a.m. They can call you at 8:01, 8:02. What if they call you at 7:50? They go, well, what's the big deal? It's 10 minutes. Well, the big deal is here's the line and you guys crossed it. Now, you want all the benefit going up to that line. But then when you cross the line, you go, well, I don't want to be sued. Okay. That's how debt collectors are. How about credit bureaus? Same thing. They say, hey, we want all the benefits, all the amazing protections of the Fair Credit Reporting Act. And then the Fair Credit Reporting Act says to a credit bureau, when you get a dispute, you must investigate it in a reasonable manner. And if you find the information is inaccurate, incomplete, you cannot make it accurate, cannot make it complete, then you must delete. And they go, well, I mean, you can't really expect us to follow that. Like, we want all the protection. In most states, you can't bring a state law claim against a credit bureau. It's a complicated area, but just assume that that's reasonably accurate, what I just said. Well, they want all that protection, but then when the Fair Credit Reporting Act requires them to do something, they go, whoa, that's unreasonable. I mean, you're going to cut into our profits here. So go back to debt collectors. They beg the government to be able to email and text you. Well, now they can do that. And guess what? You can email them back. You can say, hey, I refuse to pay. I'm never going to pay. I want you to cease communications. Or you could email back and say, I disagree with the amount. Well, here's what the collectors do. They go, well, we want all the benefit of sending emails out to you, but we don't want to have to read them coming back. Oh, that was a refuse to pay, so we can't communicate with you ever again, with 3 exceptions that very rarely apply. They go, well, that's unreasonable to expect us to. I mean, we have all these emails coming in. See, they want the benefit of the emails going out to consumers, but then when consumers email back, they go, whoa, that's unreasonable. Or, You expected us to actually read the email, and when it said disagree, we're supposed to know that means you dispute the debt. And now we have to update the credit reporting. When we update it, we have to mark it as disputed. Yeah, that's exactly what that means. See, they want the benefit without the cost. Just like, kind of the idea capitalism on the way up, socialism on the way down. Okay. And so we see this all throughout the industry. Companies want to say, you know what, if you're late, we can mark your account as being late. Okay. Even if maybe, there was some mess up between your bank doing an auto draft and the car company, and they go, it doesn't matter. You were late. So we're marking you as late. And you go, well, look, I've for 20 years never been late on anything. This one time there was a foul up between my bank and the car company. They go, we don't care. Okay. I mean, in a sense, there's some fairness to that. You just follow the law. But then when we dispute stuff and they don't make it accurate, they don't make it complete, and they get sued, they go, wait a minute, what is this? Like, we can't be expected to, like, we'd have to spend money to actually properly investigate. And that money just comes straight out of our profit. So we don't want to do that. So anyway, I just wanted to share that with you as you deal with, because presumably you're dealing with collectors or credit bureaus if you're watching this, and you wonder, why do they whine so much? It's because they want all the benefits of these laws and none of the sort of downside or negatives of these laws. And so what we have to do is just understand that's their mindset. They're always going to want sort of a situation. I don't have a coin around, but that old thing, like, let's flip a coin. Heads I win, tails you lose. That's how the collectors want it. That's how the credit bureaus want it. The credit card companies, the auto finance, the mortgage companies, they want a rigged deal where you always get the short end of the stick. And so what do? Well, we learn our rights. That's part of why I'm doing this show. So you'll learn what your rights are. And then you have to take action. See, we can learn everything under the sun. I mean, we can have all knowledge. We can, open up Chat GPT Plus, which, by the way, is a fabulous thing. If you're interested, we'll do some videos on how to use that as a consumer. But it has access to unbelievable knowledge. But if you don't do anything with that knowledge, then why have the knowledge in the first place? Okay. So if I say, I know more than anybody else in the world about health, but I'm not going to actually do anything based on what I know, well, then what was the point of learning that? So we want to gain knowledge and take action. Whatever that action may be to file suit, maybe to respond to a lawsuit, maybe to send an email to a debt collector, whatever that action is, you always want to make sure when you learn something and then you're confronted with the situation, take action. All right, let's see here. Let me go to our comments here. So Ray says, morning, John. Hey, good to see you, man. Appreciate you being on here. Oklahoma Freedom, can you explain the lawsuit with TransUnion with the freezing and unfreezing of credit reports? So I'm not familiar with any specific lawsuit on that. If you want to give me some more information, we'll certainly look at that. Just in general, the idea of freezing and unfreezing of lawsuits is really for identity theft. Okay. So let's imagine I've been the victim of identity theft and somebody's got my social, my date of birth, my mother's maiden name, like every detail about me, and not to, be negative on the day before Thanksgiving, but all that information is out there. Okay. It's on the dark web, or at least parts of it will be on the dark web. So, I've had several accounts open in my name, let's imagine, that aren't my accounts. And so I want to put a stop. So I freeze my credit report. And what it basically means is it makes it very hard for somebody to access my credit report to be able to examine me for credit. Okay. Now, it doesn't prevent everybody from getting my credit report, because there's lots of reasons people can get my credit reports outside of me applying for credit. Okay. You can have what's called an account review, and collectors can pull your credit reports. And so we freeze our reports really to help with identity theft. Now, there's kind of a mindset out there that if you freeze your report, somehow this helps in disputing. And I'll just tell you, from 2 decades of disputing with the credit bureaus and suing the credit bureaus, I've not seen any benefit to freezing a report in terms of challenging, negative, uh, incomplete, inaccurate, unverifiable information. I've not seen any connection between that. Now, I'm always open to hearing what other people's experiences have been because we always want to learn, we always want to get better. I've just not seen any benefit with that. So, if you have some more information on that, want to share that with me or specifically about that lawsuit, or if you have a site to it, I'll be glad to look at it. Just nothing's coming to my mind right now. So if anybody else has any other questions or comments, just put them down and then we will be glad to answer those. I'll share a couple other things with you, just sort of a little housekeeping thing. At 1 o'clock Central, we'll be doing our weekly webinar. Now, we don't do that on YouTube. Sometimes I post the recording on YouTube. You should see a link. It may be in the description of this, or if you go to one of my normal, non-live, unlive videos, you should see a link to it. Normally, we do that webinar on Thursdays at 1 o'clock Central, but tomorrow is kind of an important day, so I think we won't be doing that tomorrow. We're going to do that today instead at 1 o'clock. And what we've been talking about are some things we've been doing for a number of years. So once Regulation F went into effect for the FDCPA, Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, and that was in November 2 years ago, we started doing something called the Convenience Dispute Letter. And so we spent 2 weeks in our webinar going over that letter, what it does, how to use it, and what kind of responses you get back, and then what you can do with those responses. And then last week, we talked about a refuse to pay. Now, this is not something new. Refuse to pay has been in the law for, over 40 years. So you can send a cease communications or a refuse to pay. And you don't have to use any magic words. You can say, I'm not going to ever pay you. That's the same thing as refuse to pay. And then a debt collector is not allowed to continue to communicate with you except for some exceptions. And actually, let me put this on the screen. And just so you know, we'll be going over this a little bit more at 1 o'clock Central in our webinar, but I just want to show this to you. So let's get to this part. So this is the FDCPA. Let's see if I can make that a little bit bigger, hopefully easier to see. And so we've got section C, which is communication. It's an easy way to remember it. If you're looking for communication, maybe are they contacting you when they're not supposed to, or when can they call you? It's section C for communication. All right. So then we go down to this part right here. And let me just highlight this. So if you notify the debt collector in writing, so used to be that had to be by letter. Now, if a debt collector's emailing or texting you, then you certainly can respond that way, okay, because they've chosen to use that as a form of writing, and Regulation F makes that clear. So in writing that you, the consumer, refuses to pay a debt, or that you wish the debt collector cease further communication. So it's not that those are two different things. Those are the same thing. You can say to a debt collector, they send you a text, you text them back, say, I want you to cease further communications. You've now invoked this section. Or you say, I'm not ever going to pay you. You've now invoked this section. Then the debt collector shall not communicate further except, and then there are 3 exceptions. We'll cover those in just a second. But this is key, this word shall not, okay? So let's take that phrase. This is not, hey, Mr. Debt Collector, we think it'd be a really good idea if maybe, possibly, perhaps you would think about not. No, it's shall not, okay? Absolutely clear. And this is a prohibition. And so what can they do? Well, they can tell you, and this makes sense. They can write you a letter. They can send you a text, send you an email that says, we're not going to ever collect against you again on this debt. Well, great. That makes sense that they could communicate with me like that. Or they could notify, say, hey, here's some specific remedies that we usually use. Like we may sue you. That's something we do. Now, if they don't ever sue you, then that would be a lie. Okay. Or number three, they intend to evoke a specific remedy. Okay. So not that we may sue you because that's something we do, but we're actually going to sue you. They could tell you that. But can they call you and try and collect the debt? No. Can they send you a text? Hey, here's a great offer for you. You should settle with? No, because those are all attempts to collect the debt. So this is what we covered last week. We're going to talk about now today in our webinar at 1:00. What do you do if they text you back, if they email you back, if they call you, if they write a letter? So if you're interested in that, feel free to join us for that. Let's see. I've got some. Looks like some more comments here. Is there a concern for a credit to report 120 days late for 2 years straight with never charging off the account? It's very confusing for me. Okay. So what you're talking about is in the payment grid. Okay. And this is probably TransUnion doing this. Okay. Although it could be any of them. But in a payment grid, you've seen it before. It's got, like January through December, and then it's got the years, and it has like, hey, you're current, you're 30 days late, 60, 90, 120. Well, what do you do if they never charge it off, but they just continue to report, as Kelly says here, for 2 years straight, 120 days late? Well, there's a couple ways to look at that. One, have you received anything from the creditor saying we've charged off the account? Now, if you've got that, so you've got, hey, we've charged off account, but on my credit report, it doesn't show charged off. That means credit report's inaccurate. It's incomplete. Now, if you dispute that, the credit bureaus and let's say this is a credit card company, they don't fix it. You sue them. They go, well, wait a minute. 120 days late is better than a charge off. Is it? I don't know. Is 2 years straight? Like it looks like I'm currently 120 days late versus a charge off, which can report every month, but there is a charge off event. Okay. And so somebody that looks at my credit report and there's 2 years of charge off, they know, well, you charged off, 2 years ago. But if it says 120 days late every month, they may think that I'm currently 120 days late, like I'm staying 120 days late every month. Maybe I'm just paying, 1 month payment and keep falling behind. But besides that, it doesn't really matter. The FCRA doesn't say you can dispute inaccurate, incomplete information as long as it hurts you. I mean, let's think this through. I'm a victim of identity theft. Somebody opens up an American Express account in my name, and it's got a $50,000 credit limit, and they charge $10 a month, and because they're a very nice identity thief, they pay it off every month. That's actually great for my credit. I've got way more available credit, my credit utilization percentage. So, how much credit and then how much am I using is fabulous. But I dispute it because I say I never opened that account. They don't fix it. I sue them and they go, hey, we were doing you a favor keeping that account on. Well, that's not the test. The test is it inaccurate? Is it incomplete? Same thing if there's a mixed merge file. So there's another John Watts out there. He's got a $50,000 Amex account, 35 years old, never been late, has $1 on it every month. That gets merged onto or mixed onto my report, and I dispute it. They don't fix it. I sue them, and they go, hey, we were doing you a favor. That helped your score. Well, it doesn't matter if it helped my score or hurt my score. It was wrong, and I get to have that come off. So go back to Kelly's question. Maybe you have something that says there's a charge off, but if you don't, I would look at disputing that and say, how is this staying 120 days late? Because you also say in here, assuming this is true, my last payment was 3 years ago. So how can it stay 120 days late? Shouldn't it go to 150, 180, charge off? See what they do on that. And let me know what you find out about that. It's pretty rare that I see that, but every now and then we do. Let's see. Credit report 120 days each late for 2 years. Okay, yeah, I got you on that. Let's see. Oklahoma says, had the same problem with closed off car loan, paid off in 2020. It reports all over the place. So what I'd say on that, Oklahoma, is look at that report. You say it's paid off. So So imagine a timeline. So maybe you're late, then you're current, then you're late. Anyway, at some point you pay it off. Are you saying after you pay it off that they continue to report it as being late in the months after it was paid off? Sometimes we see that maybe for 2 or 3 months after you pay it off, they'll continue to report you as like a charge off or 120 days late. Well, you can't be anything in the months after you pay it off. Okay. Now, for the account status, they could say was a charge off, now paid. But if I pay it off in May, how am I a charge off in June, July, August, September? Let's use an example. If I was 60 days late and I pay it off in May and I owe nothing now, how can I be late in June 60 days? How can I be late in July 60 days? If I owe nothing, I can't be late those months. So it's worth sort of exploring that in detail. All right, Kelly said no contact with the creditor. So that goes back to the 120 days late for 2 years instead of a charge off. So then I would just approach that through the FCRA, challenge it, and see what kind of results you get back. Let's see, Ray says, I disputed debt with debt collector. They didn't report the account as in dispute. I sent another letter letting them know my intent to file a suit or arbitration or settled. They deleted the collections account. Would you pursue or how would you approach? Yeah, so first of all, that's good they deleted it. Now, we've talked about this in other videos. Deletion of credit reporting does not make the debt go away. Okay, so they may still have the account, they're just not credit reporting. But go back to what you said. You disputed it, and then they didn't report it as dispute the next reporting period. So here's the key. So again, think about a timeline. So they're reporting on me, and then let's say they start reporting in May. In June, I see that, and I communicate to the debt collector, I dispute the debt. So they know it. Maybe I sent certified mail, maybe an email they responded to, a text, recorded phone call, whatever it is. Like they know in June, I dispute the debt. Now, they have no obligation to update in July, August, September, October, November. No obligation under the FDCPA to update and mark it as disputed. But really important, here's when you dispute it if they update after that. So if you dispute it in June and they update in July, they update in August, update in September, and they do not mark it as disputed, then you can sue under E8. So let's go back to our screen here. So we will go to section E, which has to do with lying or deception. And then we come down to E8 here. All right, so we've got communicating or threatening to communicate to any person credit information which is known or should be known to be false. Then here's the key, including the failure to communicate a disputed debt is disputed. Okay, so the question would be, Ray, you said that they did not report the account as in dispute in the next reporting period. Did they report the debt and did they update the debt? So you need to sort of hand them your letter, okay? Let's assume you're doing it by letter. And then after they get your letter or your phone call or email or whatever it is, then they update your report and don't mark it as disputed. Then you can sue under E8. So the fact that you gave them warning and they deleted the account, it's not wrong. I just tell you, I don't do that. I just sue them, okay? And so you certainly can file your arbitration if you can show that you have a claim that can go into arbitration, or just sue them. And maybe they want to compel arbitration. I'll say this, Ray: if you do not have a lawyer, get a lawyer in your state that does this type of work. Okay, I'm always amazed at people that bring these suits without lawyers, and you're just completely giving up a ton of leverage that you have. Okay, and the odds are you're not in Alabama. This is not saying, hey, hire me. I'm just saying, find a lawyer and let them handle it and see what you can get out of that. And I will put something here. Hopefully this will share on the screen here. Part of it got cut off. There's a little bit more to that YouTube, but it should be in the comment. But go to consumeradvocates.org, find an attorney, and look for an attorney there. All right. Let's see. Ray says, so emails, recorded calls, certified mail. Well, it sounds like you like covered every base there. Okay. And yes, they did report and update the debt. Okay, that's perfect. So again, the whole test, and look, we file, I don't know, 15 to 20 of these a month. Okay. And I'm always reminding myself, my team, lawyers that work with us, we've got to make sure we can prove the dispute date. And then after that, we have the account updated. Okay. So a little more advanced is we need to make sure they had the debt before they got our dispute. So here's when they get our dispute. They had to have the account back here. Then they get our dispute, and then they update the credit report and don't mark it as dispute. Now you've got a slam dunk case. Okay. That's a really good case. Okay, perfect. Yeah, let us know how that turns out. Any in Texas. So there is a lawyer named, let me pull up his website. James Foley in Texas. He's at the cement firm. Texas is a big place, obviously, but I'll say this: most people will just handle cases all over the state. So this Foley Law PLLC.com. He merged his firm into this Debt Defenders by Dan Cement, and so you could definitely get with them. Or use that NACA website, that consumeradvocates.org. And let me just pop that up also so you can see it. Consumer Advocates. So this is sort of the national consumer lawyer group. They're great consumer lawyers. I'm not a part of this. Okay. So there's nothing magical about it, but this certainly has a lot of people in it. So you would just come down here, Texas, and gives you 70 people, and then you could look for debt collectors, just this FDCPA, and most consumer lawyers are going to do that. So it cuts it down to like 20. So there's Daniel Cement that James Foley is with. There's James Foley. So anyway, there's a lot of people there to look at, and hopefully that helps you. All right. Let's see here. Yeah, proof of reports prior to the dispute and after. Yeah, that's perfect. So much of this consumer stuff, if we think about it in terms of like a home improvement show, like here's the before picture, here's the during, and now here's the after. Okay. Or think of weight loss, whatever you want to think about, transformation. You want the before and after. So when we have, here's where they sent me an email and then I responded and said, I'm not going to pay you. And then they responded and said, hey, you should really pay us. Well, that makes it easy, right? Because it's all in one. Or have certified mail or whatever the case may be. So great job, Ray. Let's see here. This is going back to, I think, the 120-day situation. Or no, I'm sorry. This was a closed, paid off car loan. And then after 4 years, Equifax. So, yeah, Oklahoma, I would, pull reports. And I always recommend people pull from annualcreditreport.com. Okay. And so let me get that up on the screen here. So that is where you can get the most comprehensive reports, and you're getting it directly from Equifax, Experian, Trendy. When you go through Smart Credit, Credit Karma, Identity IQ, et cetera, they're pulling data and they're trying to do the best job they can, but it's not the true data. Okay. And they leave a lot of stuff out because they want to make it like easy to look at. You want all the data. The data is your friend when you're going through your credit reports because you want to see what's incomplete, what's inaccurate, what's missing, what's contradictory. And so we always recommend go through annualcreditreport.com. This is, the official place, get your free reports, and the bad guys can't argue about it. They can't say, well, you got that from Credit Karma. That's not really Equifax's data. No, if I get it from Equifax through annualcreditreport.com, it's a very, very difficult argument. And frankly, it makes them look like morons if they argue that, okay? Because this is mandated by the government. And so when it says you're pulling your Experian report, even though later Experian will say, well, that was actually a sister company, they just look like idiots doing that, okay? So the good lawyers that represent these companies will not make that argument. Pull your real reports from annualcreditreport.com. All right, let's see. Ray says, watching your videos, referring to case law. Hey, you are very welcome, and that's fantastic to do it. This stuff is not rocket science, right? um, but we have to follow the process. Okay, so people go, hey, I want to sue under E8, and I go, well, did you dispute it? Oh yeah, I dispute it. Well, can you prove they got it? Well, no. Yeah, I mailed them a letter. Okay, did you certify? No. Well, did they update your credit report? I don't know. Well, is it still on your credit report? I don't know. We got to just take this stuff step by step. So great job there. And I'm assuming you're meaning Steve Palmieri. Yeah, he and I did a lot of these. And I need to get back with Steve. We just, both of our lives got super busy. And so we haven't done one of these recently. Let me know if there are any other questions. And if not, then we will bring this to a close on the day before Thanksgiving. If there are any other questions, I'm happy to answer those. But otherwise, we'll end this. And like I said, if you want to catch part 4 of our webinar series on using the convenience dispute letter and refuse to pay emails and texts, we'll be doing that today at 1 o'clock Central. And if you just look in the description, you should see a link to sign up if you're not already registered for our weekly webinar. And so look forward to having you on there if you can. And I don't see any other questions. Happy holiday to you as well, Ray. And you guys have a great Thanksgiving. And I will catch you as soon as I can do another one of these. Okay, have a good one. Bye-bye.